Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. A racist woman humiliates a black man in first class without knowing he owns the airline. On the luxurious plane connecting New York to Paris, first-class passengers settled into the comfort of leather, soothed by soft background music and the scent of champagne. Among them was Madison Blake, an arrogant businesswoman known for her contempt for those she considered inferior, who was about to experience a robbery she would never forget. A few minutes before takeoff, a black man, elegant but discreet, entered the cabin. He wore a simple suit, a high-end watch, and a calm expression. His name was Ethan Coleman. But nobody, not even the flight attendants, knew that this man was the founder and owner of the airline. When Ethan sat down next to Madison, she frowned. "Excuse me, there must be a mistake," that she said in a dry voice. "First class is not open to everyone." Ethan looked at her, without a word. "I'm going to call the staff. You need to be in the back, sir." The hostess arrived, looking uncomfortable, but before she could say anything, Ethan gave her a slight smile. "Everything's fine, let her put on her little show." Madison, shocked, became even more outraged. "How dare you speak to me in that tone? Do you know who you're talking to?" "Non," he replied calmly, "but I suppose you don't know why you speak." The tone was set, but in a few hours, when the plane landed in Paris and she saw who was waiting on the tarmac to welcome Ethan, Madison would finally understand the gravity of her mistake. Airlux Flight 708 had just taken off from JFK Airport. The golden morning light streamed through the windows, illuminating the beige leather seats and the carefully poured glasses of champagne. Madison Blake, an elegant woman in her 40s with blonde hair pulled back in a bun, stretched lazily in her first-class seat. She was used to these luxurious trips, convinced that this space was hers. Reservado her and to people of her rank. But his comfort was abruptly disturbed when a man sat down in the next seat. A well-dressed, calm black man wearing a simple navy blue suit. He put away his briefcase, greeted everyone politely, and took out a laptop. Madison looked away, annoyed. "Excuse me," she said in a pinched voice, "I think there's been a mistake. Economy class is further away, sir." The man looked up in surprise, but remained courteous. "I don't think so, madam. This is definitely my place." She laughed nervously. "No, but I travel here often. First class is very selective. You must be mistaken." The steward approached, noticing the tension. "Is everything all right, madam?" "No, not at all," Madison launches. "This man is in the wrong seat. It's obvious he's not supposed to be here." The steward checked the man's ticket and paled slightly. Actually, madam, this man is perfectly in his place. 1A, everything is in order." Madison was speechless. "Impossible." "Would you like another seat, madam?" the man asked politely, without losing his composure. "That I wouldn't want to disturb your comfort." "No thanks, I'll stay here." "But it's incredible," she murmured, crossing her arms, annoyed. During the flight, she made numerous remarks. "You know, this isn't a place for amateurs. I suppose this is your first time here, isn't it?" Every sentence was a barb. Ethan simply smiled. He observed silently, noting how the other passengers' expressions changed. Some looked away, others seemed embarrassed. Then, at lunchtime, the waitress placed 2 trays in front of them. "For Mr. Coleman and Mrs. Blake." "Coleman," Madison repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, interesting. What company do you work for, Mr. Coleman?" "In the airline industry," he replied simply. "A small personal project." She laughed mockingly. "A personal project? I bet you're a technician or something." Ethan's gaze hardened slightly, but he remained perfectly dignified. "Let's just say I make sure everything runs smoothly, in my company." "Your company?" she laughed. "Ah. That's cute." Ethan smiled, without replying. He quietly closed his laptop and looked out the window, leaving Madison to wallow in her own arrogance. What she didn't know was that on the ground in Paris, a delegation of executives and journalists was waiting for her, with a giant banner. "Welcome to Paris, Mr. Ethan Coleman, CEO and owner of the Airlux Group." And in a few hours, Madison would realize that she had just humiliated her own employer. The plane began its descent towards Paris. Through the window, the clouds dispersed, revealing the beauty of the sunrise over the capital. Madison reapplied her lipstick, checked her watch, and glanced quickly at her neighbor, the man she had despised throughout the flight. He was calmly reading a file, indifferent to her stares. She sighed. "You're lucky, Mr. Coleman. Not everyone can afford first class. I hope you enjoyed your experience." Ethan looked at her, amused. "Yes, I would say it was informative." The plane touched down smoothly on the tarmac at Charles de Gaulle Airport. The passengers stood up, grabbing their carry-on luggage. Madison, impatient, walked right past Ethan, refusing even to say a final word to him. "Best of luck, sir," the technician she said mockingly. Ethan gave a slight smile. "Thank you, Ms. Blake. Have a good day too." She blinked. "How do you know my name?" But he didn't reply. He simply picked up his jacket and calmly walked down the corridor leading to the exit. No sooner had the plane door opened than Madison was struck by an unexpected scene. A row of flight attendants, pilots, and journalists were waiting with cameras. A large banner fluttered in the wind. "Welcome to Paris, Mr. Ethan Coleman, CEO and owner of the Airlux Airlines Group." Madison remained fidgety. "Pardon?" she murmured. Flashbulbs popped as Ethan descended the steps. He shook hands with the airport director, smiled at the cameras, and exchanged a few words with the transport minister who had come to greet him. Airlux employees, in uniform, applauded him respectfully. The flight attendant, the one who had witnessed the scene between Madison and Ethan, cast a discreet glance at Madison, who seemed about to collapse. "Mr. Coleman, how did the flight go?" a journalist asked. "Excellent," he replied calmly. "That I was lucky enough to travel with a passenger, who was very expressive." The journalists chuckled slightly, without understanding the implication. Madison, her cheeks red, wanted to sneak discreetly towards the exit, but a communications officer approached her. "Mrs. Blake? Mr. Coleman would like to speak with you." She felt her legs tremble. When she looked up, Ethan was walking towards her, accompanied by the company director. He stopped a few steps away, his gaze calm but cold. "Madam Blake," he said, in a calm but firm voice, "I wanted to thank you for this lesson in humility that you offered me during the flight." She stammered. I didn't know." "I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Coleman, You didn't know who I was." "That's true," that he cut in, "but respect doesn't depend on a person's status. If I had been just an employee, your words would have been just as hurtful." The cameras began discreetly filming the scene. Madison felt shame wash over her. Ethan turned to his colleagues. "Ensure that in the future, our first-class flights welcome passengers who know how to behave with dignity, regardless of the skin color of their neighbors." Then he gave her one last look, not angry, but full of disappointment, and walked away to the applause of his team. Madison, alone amidst the tumult, lowered her head. For the first time in her life, she understood that money could buy neither class nor respect. Madison wandered through the airport hall, her face still burning with shame. Around her, passengers whispered. Some had recognized her, the marketing director of Blake & Partners, a firm recently associated with Airlux Airlines. She tried to calm herself, but every reflection in the windows reminded her of the scene, his words, his tone, his contempt. Everyone had seen it. Everyone knew. She sat down in a corner, took out her phone and called her assistant. "Mason, tell me this video isn't already online." "Madam, it's already on several networks. People are filming you with Mr. Coleman. It's going viral." "My God," she sighed, gripping the phone tightly. "I'm finished." A few hours later, a message reached him. From CEO's office, Airlux Group. Subject: urgent meeting. Ms. Blake, Mr. Coleman wishes to meet with you at his office tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Your presence is mandatory. Madison felt her heart stop. She spent the night sleepless, her face turned towards the ceiling, replaying every word spoken on board the plane. The next day, Airlux headquarters. The group's offices dominated the entire business district. Employees politely greeted the CEO upon his arrival, while a nervous Madison waited outside the meeting room. When Ethan entered, dressed in an impeccable black suit, everyone fell silent. "Madam Blake," he said, in a calm voice, "sit down." She obeyed, her hands trembling. "I don't make a habit of humiliating anyone," he began, "but your behavior yesterday was not only disrespectful towards me. It was unbecoming of a representative of a partner company." She lowered her eyes. "I understand, Mr. Coleman. I am deeply sorry. I have no excuse. I behaved like a fool." He stared at her for a long moment before replying. "You're right. But I believe people can change, if they're willing to learn." Madison slowly raised her head, intrigued. "Learn?" "Yes," he said, standing up. "You're going to follow me for a week. Not in this office, but out in the field. You'll be working with our cleaning, security, and maintenance teams. You'll see how those you usually ignore live." She was speechless. "Do you want me to clean?" "I want you to understand," he replied simply, "this is not a punishment, it is a lesson." A heavy silence fell over the room. Then he added, "If you refuse, Airlux will immediately terminate all collaboration with your company." She hesitated for a moment, then murmured, "I agree." Ethan nodded. "Okay. You'll start tomorrow at 6 a.m. in our maintenance hangars. Dress like everyone else. No makeup, no special treatment." He walked towards the door, then turned around. "And above all, leave your arrogance at home. It won't do you any good there." Madison felt a tear roll down her cheek. For the first time, she understood that her real downfall had just begun. The following morning, at precisely 6 a.m., Madison Blake stood in front of the Airlux hangars, dressed in a simple blue uniform, without makeup or jewelry. The cold bit at her, the ground was damp, and the air smelled of fuel and metal. The woman who, just the day before, had been traveling in first class, found herself carrying a broom and a bucket of water, under the astonished gaze of the technicians and maintenance staff. "Is that the lady from the video?" whispered a mechanic. "Yes, it's definitely her. The arrogant one from first class." Madison could hear the whispers, but she remained silent. A foreman, a black man named Darius, approached. "So, you're the new recruit?" he asked with a slight ironic smile. "Yes," she replied in a hesitant voice. "Very good. Here, everyone is equal. We speak to each other with respect. And we work hard. Do you think you can keep up?" "I'll try," she murmured. Madison discovered a world she had never seen before. She scrubbed floors, served meals to mechanics, and cleaned cabins after flights. At first, everyone judged her, some laughed, others despised her. But little by little, his attitude changed. One morning, she saw Darius struggling to lift a tank. Without thinking, she rushed to help him. "Be careful, it's heavy." "I know," she replied, panting, but smiling, "that I may not be strong, but I can help." Darius looked at her, surprised. That day, for the first time, someone on the team gave him a genuine smile. That evening, as she was leaving the hangar, she crossed paths with Ethan Coleman. He had been observing the scene for several days, in silence. "So, Mrs. Blake," he said softly, "how did you find this experience?" She lowered her head. "Challenging, but necessary. I learned a lot, Mr. Coleman. Mostly about myself." "And what did you learn?" he asked. "That a person's true worth has nothing to do with the color of their skin, or their seat on a plane. I was blinded by my own pride." A silence fell. Ethan stared at her for a long time, then gave a slight smile. That's what I was hoping to hear. A few weeks later, Ethan organized an internal conference to present a new training program on diversity and respect. In front of dozens of employees, he invited Madison to speak. People stared at her, curious. She was trembling, but her voice was firm. A month ago, I was the perfect example of what not to be: arrogant, ignorant, and racist. But an encounter forced me to open my eyes. Today, I want to apologize publicly, and above all, learn to do better. The room remained silent, then applause erupted. Darius gave him an encouraging sign from the back. Ethan, sitting in the front row, nodded his head in satisfaction. After the conference, he approached her. "You've come a long way, Madison." "Thanks to you," she replied. "Non," he said, smiling, "thanks to yourself. You chose to change." She held out her hand to him. "Thank you for not condemning me when you had the opportunity." Ethan shook her hand, sincerely. Everyone deserves a second chance, provided they deserve it. That day, Madison left the Airlux headquarters with a lighter heart. She was no longer the haughty first-class woman. She was a transformed woman, aware that respect is worth more than any first-class ticket. And somewhere in the sky, an Airlux plane was cutting through the clouds, a symbol of a new beginning, for her as for all those who had learned the true lesson. Dignity is not measured by rank, but by heart.